Okay, welcome back. What we're going to do now is prepare the board, tin all the contacts ready for the Arbiter 4 chip to be fitted. Some of the boards, some of the newer boards are different to this now. Some of the newer boards don't have the Mylar, which is fitted here. Also, some of the newer boards, these contacts here are set horizontally. Some of the newer boards are set vertically, so you have one contact above the other. But the basic principle is the same. The first thing we're going to do here is remove the Mylar so that we can get to the bottom of these trigger connections here. So what we do is we just peel that off. And just be careful to keep your finger above it, because these can tend to ping off. So that they are now out of the way. So we're going to tin the bottom of these two contacts here, and the same here, bottom of these two contacts here. We're also going to add solder here and here and onto this connection just here. We find it easier to do it while it's still in the shell here, because it's going to lay flat and it's more stable and so easier to do. What we find with this last one is it's easier to put a little bit of solder on the end of the iron and just dab it onto the contact. And we'll also, what I didn't mention is we're going to tin the contact up here ready for the LED connection. So they're all done. So now we can remove this board here. We'll put this to the side for the moment. And on here what we're going to do is prep the board. Here's your B connection, which is here. So we're just going to scratch a little bit of the carbon off of this connection so that we can solder onto it. And then we're going to tin the connections here. These close-up pictures in the manual that we'll send to you, which shows which connections. But basically, I'm just going to tin at the bottom here. And also on the B button. So that's prepped, ready for the Arbiter 4 board. Okay, we've now got our board tinned ready for the Arbiter 4 chip. So what we're going to do is lay that over the top, and what we find is the easiest way is to do the B connection here first and then the sync connection over here. And what that does is it holds the board in each corner in place, which makes it much easier to make these finer connections here. So we use a little bit of flux as well. We only put a very small amount on, which just helps with the connections. Okay. So the first connection we're going to make is the B connection. And then we're going to turn the board around to make the sync connection here. This is the third pin in. And what we try and do, as the connection is tinned, we just try and drag the solder across. And now that board is held quite firmly in place, which makes it much easier for us to make the connections here. We always start at the bottom here and work our way along. So if you just tin the copper contact and then just drag the solder across. It makes very easy connections, very clean. And then again at the top. It doesn't matter if you get any solder on the other connections, they can be connected as well, but it makes no difference to the chip whatsoever. So that's basically everything connected now on the chip this side of the board. So what we're going to do now is move on to connecting all of the wires up on the other side of the board. What we find is easier because of the thumbsticks here is to place the board on a roll of tape or something like that, which gives you a flat working surface. So the first connection we're going to make is the trigger here. We'll just put a little bit of flux on the connections that we're going to make. Because we've already tinned these and the wires themselves are tinned, it should make the soldering much easier for us. So that's the first connection. And second. We always start from the bottom, so if we take the bottom wire and then this is going to your trigger. Second wire up. We're just warming the solder up and letting the wire melt into the solder. This connection here, what we tend to do is just trim a little bit off the end. We don't want this to be too long. And what we're going to do is dab this onto the connection. So we put a little bit of solder on the end of our iron. And then we can just feed the wires around. So that's the board connected here. The only thing left that we've got to connect is the LED connection here. So if we take back our board, that pushes into place. We've already tinned the contact here, so we can just dab that on. And that's it. All the chip is connected. Make sure that you have these wires here when you put that board in pushed over to the side, otherwise they're going to block the connections here. We'll be looping out in the battery pack. So what we can do now, as we've already prepped all of the connections, is connect the rumblers. On the small trigger rumblers, grey is positive, black is neutral. Can now fit the screws back into the board that we took out earlier. We're now going to fit the mylar that we took off from the trigger connections. Just place that back. Okay, to fit the main rumblers, The small rumble motor goes on the left hand side, and black is neutral, red is live positive. And that's the controller all chipped and wired. So all we need to do now is to put the thumbsticks back on. Faceplate. Just make sure that these cables are all tucked down. Then the back just slides on, and you can see that the cables are out of the way there. We're going to put the centre screw in first. And then the other 4 screws around the sides. Battery cover just slides on, and then all we have to do is clip the side grips, and they literally just push on and you'll hear them click into place. And that controller is now chipped and finished. Thank you for watching.